Hi, I'm Kathy.
And I'm Vanessa, and this is Latinx Collective Conversations, where we talk about private practice mindset and building community as Latinx clinicians. So, Kathy, I know that you had a specific topic that you wanted to cover today, and that is
Fear. I want to talk about fear and fear and how it shows up for us when we're going to build a practice, how it shows up for us when we're going to try something new, and how people assume that if you're in it, you no longer have fear.
I think I'm fearful of talking about fear.
So great. This is a great conversation. So, in thinking about this topic and what I wanted to share, it brought me back to a conversation that I had. She was at the time a clinician at my practice. And most people know at my group practice, if you tell me that you want to start your own thing, I'm like, all right, let's do this. What's the plan? Let's figure it out. And even if you're in my practice, like that's what I want to see. I want to see someone that's my therapist at my practice that they're growing and they want to do this, right? Or even better yet, they saw it happening and feel like they can do it, right? That's like the biggest compliment. So we sat down and we're talking about it. And she said to me, well, I'm going to do it. I do want to do it. But Kathy, I'm really afraid. And she said, I'm not like you. She's like, you're like not afraid of anything and you just go and you do it. And I'm sitting there like, I was like, no,
What
that is
about me?
not true. I was like, chill out. I was like, I am very afraid of doing things. I just think people just assume that when you're in it, you don't feel fear anymore. You just do things. And that is quite the opposite when it comes to anything that we're gonna do and put out there. But if anybody knows me, I'm like, yeah, I'm scared, but I do it anyway. Right?
Yeah, that's the secret
Yes.
sauce of being scared and doing it anyway. And I wonder, did she think that you just had no fear of it all? Or does she just see you the way that you present yourself as like being confident and maybe, I don't know, is it really not having fear or is it having all the answers?
I think that she felt like I had the answers, right? Like, oh, I have this education and I've shared 10 years of business under my belt. At this point, when she was talking to me even more, because I had already had my practice for a couple of years. So I think she just assumes like you have the answers and you're doing it. So you must be good to go. And that's definitely not how it works. I think we could talk about it in stages, right? So in the beginning, it's like, well, what if it doesn't work?
Right.
Right? What if I can't do it? What if nobody calls and I get zero clients? Right? I think I've heard that from every single person. What if nobody ever finds me and they never get clients? And I'm sure you had very similar thoughts in the beginning.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, depending on how you start may change those thoughts a little bit because I started while I still had my full time. So it's like I had this big
Yeah.
security blanket that, like, all right, if nobody calls, but I still have to pay this office rent. So somebody better call because I still need something
Yeah.
coming in, even though I still had my full time. But it wasn't just the fear of people calling, it's also the fear of putting myself out there. I remember being on LinkedIn and not wanting to say that I was doing this even part time because I was like, "Ooh, but what if my supervisor sees it? But what if this person sees it? But what if they ask these questions?" And just putting myself out there in a new light was a big challenge and a step of fear that I had to overcome too.
Yeah. And which I love that people can hear you say that because like you have followers. You're out there all the time and putting yourself like, you record yourself a lot more than I do. Because I'm like, no, thank you, right? If anybody wants to know about a fear of mine. But it's really great to see you say that so that people can say it's like, no, you don't just step into it. You're like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to put this out there. And that's the number one thing I tell people when they're about to start practicing, like, did you tell your family, your friends? And they're like, no. I know, tell them that's your practice right there, right? And it's also little steps too, because I didn't just wake up one day and say, I'm just gonna do it even though I'm afraid. Right? There's steps to get there so you feel a little bit more comfortable with the idea of what you're doing.
Yes. And we were talking about before, there are probably a lot of things in life that have helped us come to this place of doing it scared and doing it scared anyway from our whole life experience because we've almost to a sense have always had to do this.
Oh yeah. Yes, yes. That does help. And you are also oldest daughter, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm the oldest daughter, right, in a family of immigrants, first gen, and there was a lot of figuring out that we had to do. And I always love to say, especially oldest daughters, sorry, males who are not oldest daughters, to say, we have this businesses. We ran the business of our family in most
Yeah.
cases, right? We were the translator and please fill this thing out. And let's figure out how to do this. So we already have these skills so built in that I wish that people could see how you can translate that into business, right? There is a downside to that. There is, because then we're like, we can do it all ourselves. That's another episode for doing it all yourself. But we already have so many of those skills because we are doing things and figuring things out for our families in a lot of cases, for our siblings in some cases. And then, we figured out FAFSA, how to apply to school and how to get through school on, you can also run a business.
I love that you brought that up because sometimes we're so good in helping our clients see these things as clinicians, but sometimes we have to place the mirror in front of us and also ask ourselves the types of questions that we ask our clients, like what strengths do we already have inside of us, especially as a first gen and also as eldest daughters, but there's a lot of other strengths too. And when we realize that, then we can think like, oh no, but if I'm able to do that, I can transfer those skills and also establish and run this business successfully.
Yeah, definitely. And women run houses, right? On
I
top of
mean,
that,
that's what we
right?
do.
To run a whole household, it's just so many skills that transfer that if we think about things a little differently sometimes, we can say, oh, I do have a lot of these skills. Because going back to the conversation, I think part of it was she thought lack of skills and knowledge.
Mhm.
Right. And yeah, there's a knowledge piece there, which I reach out when I don't know something, I'm asking questions. Right. That's something I had to move past too, because I don't need to know everything. I don't know everything, and that's okay. So, what do we do when we need that help, and who to reach out to is super important.
Which is what I love about what we do in the Latinx practice community as a collective, because we talk about how culture and how these mindsets show up in running businesses and in doing other things even past the business. And you talked about before, like it comes in stages. Sometimes it's just about opening the business and
Yeah.
making sure you're putting yourself out there. But I remember the first time I had to press the button in the EHR and charge a person's card. I can't tell you how long it took. It should have just
Oh
took
my
5
gosh.
seconds, and it took like half an hour because I was just so afraid, like, "Oh my goodness, am I worth this? Can I be
Mm.
charging this? Like, did the service that I provided, was that good? And is it gonna mess up this person's credit somehow?" And it's something that I kept replaying, and now I'm just like, "Charge, charge, charge," because just the confidence and the experience that you get.
Yeah, no, it's so true. Like you were saying, once you're in it, okay, I got past that. I'm doing it. Imposter syndrome can come up and all these other things come up in where you're doubting some of the things that you're doing. You're always going to doubt the things you're doing. You're always, that's never going to go away. I think that's really important because, okay, you got past the first stage and you opened up your business, you have your practice, you start charging, you feel good about that. You figured out if you're taking insurance, how to do that, and you feel good, right? But then maybe you want to do something different, or you want to open up a group practice, or you want to offer a group, or you're going to do CEs or something like that. The fear comes up again. What if someone asks you to be on a podcast? What if someone asks you to speak? Right? It's the fears do come up and they continue to come up, but it's also how we navigate those. And the people we surround ourselves with, I cannot stress that enough. The people that are around us are the people that are really going to help us when those fears come up.
Yes, that makes me think of in English, "Birds of a feather flock together." Is that the saying?
Yes. Yes.
And then in Spanish, "Dime con quién anda y te diré
¿Quién eres?
quién es." ¿Quién eres? Yeah, okay. I have to
Uh-huh.
think
Yeah.
about both. I feel like
Yes.
sometimes, like, not enough over here, not enough over there, but different
Yes.
things in both languages that speak to the
Mhm.
point that when you're first trying something new, regardless of what it is, you can be a pro in one thing, but beginning something new, the fear comes up again. And surrounding yourself around people who are gonna boost your confidence, who are gonna support you, who you can get answers from, and who are gonna cheer you on as you're going along. And along with that, I'll add knowing that it may not always be successful. It may not,
Mm.
sometimes things you're going to try it and it may flop. But even from that, having a growth mindset and knowing that from those experiences, you also learn whether it is, I'm going to try this a couple of times and not try it again, or whether it is that's not for me, or I need more support in order to make this work.
I'm really glad you brought that up because a lot of people just assume that the things that we do just work magically. They did not. It's not just because we decided to do it and because we have all this knowledge that it just magically worked out. It doesn't happen that way. Things happen in stages. And there's plenty of things I'm sure that I can share that I've tried, things that you've tried that just didn't work. Right. Whether it was timing, whether it was whatever, or at first they didn't work and we got more support and then they worked out really well. So it's important to also bring up those things that not just because, oh, you're successful and all of these things and you're good, that it worked out because you had that idea. And then
Yeah.
to add to that is there's that when you're good and you're making money and things are consistent, then the fear of like, what if it all goes away?
Mm.
Right? What if clients stop calling? What if something happens or something changes out of my control and all of a sudden this isn't what it is anymore and things completely change? I think that's a whole other level of fear that people don't talk about too much because they just assume you're good and everything is fine. Or what if you have a major life event and that changes things for you financially or personally?
You mean major life events like having babies, unplanned in the middle of having multiple businesses like we just did in the past, what, 18 months?
Yes. Yes. All of us each having a baby.
And that
Yes.
is major, major life event, unplanned. And I'll be completely honest and transparent because, as you said, more people need to hear this because we just don't have magic fairy dust that was granted by somebody out there to be successful. After having the baby, it was a big slowdown because she's a miracle baby. So completely unplanned and complete surprise. And although I was able to fund my leave, there was a lot afterwards that I wasn't prepared for because I wasn't planning for it. So did take a dip. But with that fear, it also has to be that belief in yourself and that confidence that you'll get through it. And even if things
Yes.
slow down, things are able to pick themselves back up as they now.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's like having like you've put a lot of things in place. Okay, it wasn't planned for, but you will get through it. Right. And as long as you do the things, the networking and the reaching out to other people for support, putting yourself out there, because that is part of a business. I think that's one of the things that it's a part that maybe it's out of your comfort zone. You could do marketing your way, but you still need to do those things as part of your business. And doing those things and being consistent with that is really going to help your business so much, even if things come up that are not planned. But
Yeah,
they come up and you get
they
through
come
them.
up. You surely do. And in one piece, usually, for the most part.
Yes.
But you said
Usually.
something twice that I want to also bring light to is not only the people that you surround yourself with, the support that you obtain. And something that we've both spoken about in the past is we get support from each other, but we also pour a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of energy into hiring coaches, into being parts of other communities, into really doing the things to level up so that we don't stay this one level. And I'm not sure if people really recognize that that has to be done in order to continue on a growth pathway.
Investing in yourself is 100% something you have to do as a business owner. And yeah, I've had coaches. I'm part of other communities. And, we obviously have our community. I'm part of our other communities because I also want to be part of something that I'm not running. That's really important to me that I can just be there, right? Because that's part of a lot of the spaces that I'm in that I am involved in either, a board or part of the leadership team or something. And with our community as well. But that's important. Being part of other communities, investing in yourself, finding a coach that's a good fit for you, finding a group of people, or, investing in like a consultation group, whatever it is that you need at that time, looking out for that, seeking out that help is really important.
Absolutely. So, to make a small shift, we've talked about the fears that we have and kind of the things that we've done in between there. What are you still fearful of, or at least hesitant of?
Now it's so funny because I speak all the time in front of a bunch of different people, right? But we are doing a conference in next month and I'm not used to doing that. So that's like, it brings up some fear, but I'm also excited about it. And I think that that's really what helps me. Even when I'm afraid of something, I'm like, but why am I doing it? I'm doing it for X, Y, and Z reason, right? But I'm really excited about it. And I'm more excited because of what we're speaking about. So I always kind of counter that fear with the excitement and the reason why I'm doing it. But yes, that is something that we're doing more of and hoping to do more of this year is speaking at different conferences to get out certain messages that we're really passionate about. So yeah, there a little fear comes up when I think about doing that.
Yeah, totally hear that. And along the same lines, I mean, I've definitely been speaking for a while. So there are always some butterflies and nerves that come up, but I do get some excitement from doing it, or a lot of excitement from doing it anyway. But my current fear is not for conferences, but when putting myself out there as a speaker is charging more because I still think that I am undervaluing myself. So putting new numbers out there, and that's always like a holding my breath a little bit and then seeing where it lands, but not having fear stop me, right? Not having fear stop you from putting out to these different conferences and seeing where we land. And I always think of the worst they can say is no or counter,
Yeah.
and then you take it from there.
Mhm. Exactly. Right. Just do it. Do it scared. Like that. That's just the message. Do it scared. You're scared. Do it anyway. But remind yourself why you're doing it. Right. Because that reminder is really going to ground you and push you to do it. It's okay. Maybe they say no. Okay. Maybe it doesn't work exactly how we planned. I can't tell you how many things I've done that don't work exactly as planned, but they actually worked out better.
Yes. And then how many things do you maybe not plan for, but then they work out? And it's almost like two sides of the same coin. Like sometimes you can't plan every single thing to the T, but you never know
Mhm.
what's going to come, what's not going to come, but you got to put yourself out there, fear and all.
I didn't plan for the collective. It just
And
happened.
here we are.
And here we are. Exactly.
All right. So, moral of the story, if you take nothing else away, is do it scared. Surround yourself with great supports. And if you have any questions that we can help you with, we are more than happy to answer them. So, please make sure that you stay on the lookout, whether it be on our YouTube, on our Instagram, and on our mailing list. You want to visit latinxpracticecollective.com. Jump on the mailing list so that you can be the first to know what we are up to and different trainings and live trainings that we put out there and events coming up as well. So thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, remember that this conversation is for educational purposes only and should not be substituted for therapy, financial, clinical, or business advice. See you next time.